The top stories tonight in Y News. All eyes are on Vice President-elect Sara Duterte as she takes oath before Supreme Court Justice Ramon Paul Hernando this weekend to become the country's 15th Vice President. The driver of the SUV in a viral hit-and-run in Mandaluyong City skipped the first hearing of the preliminary investigation as police authorities denies giving special treatment to the SUV driver. AstraZeneca is planning to sell its COVID-19 vaccines in the Philippines soon. The World Health Organization is urging all nations to invest more in mental health as depression and anxiety had spiked across the world. Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Friday, June 17, 2022. Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the Philippines and in other parts of the world. I am Kat Dumaraos. We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts. First in the news. More diplomats paid courtesy visits on President-elect Ferdinand Marcos Jr. today. This includes the envoys from Nigeria, Poland, Bangladesh, New Zealand, and Australia. The representatives expressed their willingness to help the Marcos administration through more investments. Nel Maribohok reports.
Bangladesh is working on enhancing its cooperation with the Philippines in the pharmaceutical sector. This was disclosed by Bangladeshi Ambassador to the Philippines, Borhan Udin, after a meeting with President-elect Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Udin stressed that booming pharmaceutical sector in his country, which the Philippines can collaborate with.
We have a very booming pharmaceutical sector in Bangladesh. You will be happy to know that we export our pharmaceuticals to more than 140 countries around the globe, including USA and European Union countries.
Aside from this, Marcos Jr. and Udin also discussed the country's cooperation in the agriculture sector. Meanwhile, Nigeria's ambassador to the Philippines says they are ready to assist the Philippines when it comes to the supply of oil and natural gas.
I actually mentioned to the president-elect as well that Nigeria is number 12 oil producer in the world, so we can help. We are number 3 natural gas producer in the world, so because I know he's keen on green energy.
Other topics discussed were agriculture, technology, and finance. The incoming president also held a meeting with the Australian envoy. During the media briefing, Australian Ambassador Stephen James Robinson said they discussed about the issue on the West Philippine Sea.
We touched upon the situation on the West Philippine Sea and the South China Sea, and I reiterated our commitment to the Philippines in supporting the outcome of the arbitral award and supporting the Philippines as it goes forward dealing with difficult regional issues.
Other officials who visited Marcos today is the charge d'affaires of Poland and New Zealand's ambassador to the Philippines. Nel Maribohok, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Mandaluyong City Prosecutor's Office launched a preliminary investigation into the June 5 hit-and-run incident today, while the respondent did not appear in the preliminary probe. Dante Amento tells us why.
Attorney Danny Macalino, the legal counsel of Jose Antonio San Vicente, said they have yet to submit their counter-affidavit regarding the incident, so there is no need for his client to appear personally in today's preliminary investigation.
Ngayon ko na nakuha yung complaint eh. We cannot submit the counter affidavit now without the complaint affidavit. So hindi na... Well, he has to present yung counter affidavit.
San Vicente is charged with frustrated murder and abandonment of one's own victim before the Mandaluyong City Prosecutor's Office. The victim, Christian Floralde, personally appeared in the preliminary investigation, and his lawyer submitted the necessary evidence on the case.
Nagbigay kami ng mga ebidensya doon na nagpapatunay kung sino ang may gawa ng nangyari sa kanya.
Floralde is determined to pursue the case until justice is served.
Depende sa biktima. Hindi ako makakapagsalita tungkol sa mga negotiation. But let justice run its course.
Meanwhile, the next preliminary investigation is set on June 23, 2022, Thursday.
Sa 23, may continuation ng PI. 24 sana, kaya lang hindi ako pwede ng 24, 23 ni-request ko.
San Vicente is also expected to submit his counter affidavit and must appear before the prosecutor's office. Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Philippine National Police denied accusations that there was a special treatment given to Jose Antonio San Vicente, the vehicle driver involved in the Mandaluyong hit-and-run incident. Leia Ilagan explains why.
There are no close ties between PNP officer-in-charge Police Lieutenant General Vicente Danao Jr. and the family of the hit-and-run driver Jose Antonio San Vicente. This was after San Vicente surfaced and held a press conference in Camp Crame with his family to air their side of the story. PNP spokesperson Police Colonel Jean Fajardo said the family sought contact with General Danao through intermediaries.
Hindi po kilala ng ating officer in charge yung pamilya po nitong ni Jose Antonio San Vicente. It so happened, based on my information, ay meron pong nilapitan itong tatay na po pwede pong makipag-usap kay OIC kung po pwede nga po silang umapir dito sa Camp Crame.
Thus, Colonel Fajardo denies VIP treatment has been extended to the San Vicente family.
The interest of transparency, ang dami na nga po naghahanap na kaya minarapat po ng ating officer in charge na ilabas at ipakita po sa publiko itong si Mr. San Vicente bilang patunay nga po na siya ay umapir dito at wala po tayong itinatago.
The PNP official also reiterated that they have no legal basis to arrest Jose Antonio since no arrest warrant has been issued against him by the court. The PNP has filed frustrated murder and abandonment of one's own victim against the suspect. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
And for the news abroad, in its largest review of world mental health, the World Health Organization, or WHO, reported that due to the COVID-19 pandemic, mental health has worsened. Marvy Delfin will explain why live. Yes, Marvy?
Kath, before the pandemic, 1 billion people were already suffering from mental disorders, and it was after the first year of the pandemic where mental illness rates increased by 25%, the WHO revealed. Depression and anxiety were the highest compared to other illnesses, explaining that the pandemic restrictions, which enforced social isolation, induced stress, loneliness, and other extreme emotions. With such alarming rates, the report claims that funding remained low, with only 2% of budget from national health and a maximum of 1% of international aid put into mental health. And while high-income countries managed to offer mental health treatment to 70% of people, those in low-income nations are at major risks, with only 12% receiving treatment. WHO's Director General Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus addressed the urge to invest in mental health by changing policies and practices which can help not only individuals but to build a better life and future for all. Kath?
Thank you, Marvy Delfin, for that live report. People in Thailand would be able to take off their face masks when they are in open-air places and during activities or works where masks are not normally required starting July 1st. This is after the Center for COVID-19 Situation Administration, or CCSA, agreed to the proposal of the Public Health Ministry, and Thailand will be declared in the green zone. Along with this, all businesses and activities that were restricted due to COVID-19 could also resume from July 1st, according to CCSA. Spokesman Tawisil Pisanayotin. Thailand also lifted more travel restrictions for international tourists, as the mandatory Thailand Pass registration and COVID-19 insurance will be removed from the requirements by July. Meanwhile, in Australia, New South Wales and Queensland and the Australian Capital Territory, or ACT, have lifted their mask mandate at airports from midnight today, June 17, and Western Australia will follow suit tomorrow, June 18. The Australian Health Protection Principal Committee, or AHPPC, said that wearing masks at airports was no longer proportionate since it has been removed in most community settings. However, they still advise to continue wearing masks in indoor settings where physical distancing is not possible. Meanwhile, more and more North Americans are taking vacations abroad. The phenomenon is being dubbed as revenge travel. Beverly Saison will tell us why.
Experts say residents are making up for the trips they missed out on during the pandemic as a revenge of sorts to the virus that put the world at a standstill. Despite increased travel costs, airplane tickets cost 35% more this July 2022 compared to July 2019, according to data. This surge in travel is expected to continue all throughout the North American summer season. Europe is one of the most popular destinations for North Americans. The region is expecting a 600% increase in American tourists from 2021, according to Alliance Partners' Top 10 Summer European Destinations review. Vacationers now face less regulations. For example, negative COVID-19 PCR tests are no longer mandatory for international airplane travelers going to the U.S. While many Americans are booking their next getaways, staying on budget is still a top priority amidst inflation rates. Domestic flights in the U.S. are also seeing dramatic cost increases.
Regarding the surge in price of plane tickets, I'm really expecting it because of the effect of the pandemic. I love traveling, and the increase in pricing makes it tough to travel. However, I think we can still come up with different ways to make traveling more affordable.
Today, the average cost of a round-trip domestic flight in the U.S. is $400 or over 21,000 pesos. Last year, the average was only $300 or 16,000 pesos. Beverly Saison, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
For those watching our live streaming on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook.
Preparations for the inauguration of Vice President-elect Sara Duterte on Sunday here at San Pedro Square in Davao City are now underway. Organizers say the stage has no roof and will be an open one as Duterte wants the public to have a good view of the program and for her to see her fellow Davaoeños. The Davao City Public Safety Security Command Center says they will distribute raincoats should it rain on the inauguration day. LED screens will be installed along the streets for the crowd to watch the program. 1,000 seats will be placed in front of the stage along San Pedro Street for the VIPs, while seats will also be provided for senior citizens, persons with disabilities, and pregnant women. Organizers say they will strive to finish the overall setup by tomorrow morning. The stretch of San Pedro Street is now closed for vehicles, but it is still accessible to the public. For those who will be attending the event on Sunday, bringing of backpacks and jackets are prohibited inside the activity area, along with alcoholic drinks, illegal drugs, and pointed objects. The audience must also place their garbage waste in transparent cellophane, as plastic garbage bins are also not allowed in the event area. Police authorities also reminded the public to observe the minimum public health standards, such as wearing a face mask and sanitizing with alcohol if hand washing would be challenged amid the crowd. British-Swedish pharmaceutical and biotechnology firm AstraZeneca will submit their application for a certificate of product registration for their COVID-19 vaccine in the Philippines soon. Eileen Cerudo will tell us why.
Pharmaceutical company AstraZeneca will apply for a certificate of product registration to the Food and Drug Administration to allow the distribution and selling of their products to the public.
Well, according to the CEO, Lotte Samin, AstraZeneca will soon be filing the CPR, no?
Once the CPR is given to AstraZeneca, their COVID-19 vaccines will be made available to various drugstores in the country. Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship and Go Negosyo founder Joey Concepcion is optimistic that the FDA will immediately approve the CPR given the efficacy of the vaccine to protect the public from the COVID-19 virus.
So I don't see any reason why the CPRs will not be approved, no? And that they can now sell it to the drugstores, and the people upon getting a prescription from their doctors can buy these vaccines. Katulad ng ginagawa natin sa pneumonia, sa shingle shots, sa flu shots, tayo naman ang bumibili nun, no?
He also assured that the government will provide assistance to those who cannot afford to purchase the vaccines. Meanwhile, Concepcion reiterated his recommendation to lift the public state of emergency.
The public health emergency, I was telling the President, siguro dapat pag-aralan natin yan at maybe we can shift out of it kasi nasa public health emergency pa rin tayo. I believe that we don't need that anymore.
Infectious disease expert Ronjin Solante said it is not yet the right time to lift the country's public health state of emergency, especially amid the uptick of COVID-19 cases. Eileen Cerudo, UNTV News and Rescue, we serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Department of Health is expected to release the guidelines for the administration of COVID-19 vaccine booster shots for children aged 12 to 17 years in the coming days. Meanwhile, the agency said that the country may experience a very minor surge in cases in the next few weeks. Aiko Miguel explains why.
Mirna Kabutahe, Health Undersecretary and Chairperson of the National Vaccination Operations Center, said they have been preparing guidelines for the administration of booster shot to minors 12 to 17 years old. Undersecretary Kabutahe said he will release the drafted guidelines immediately after Health Secretary Francisco Duque III checks them.
So, nag-submit na sila. We are just looking at how to have the guidelines. So, by, Friday? Mabilis naman kami sa inbox. So, by Monday, after the secretary or his designate will check, it's already in our table. We will release the guidelines for booster for 12 to 17 years old.
HTAC, on the other hand, has not yet recommended the administration of second booster for the general population.
Pero kagaya ng sabi ni Secretary, yung second booster po na ibang kategorya, hindi pa po rin-recommend ng ating Health Technology Assessment Council, kahit na po meron na po siyang EUA.
While Health Secretary Duque said there may have been a slight uptick in cases, the country and the National Capital Region are at low risk for case classification. Also, the country will just experience a minor and short-lived surge once it occurs again.
At this point, but it does not present itself as an excuse to be complacent. No? So we have to be still complying strictly with our masking mandate and the rest of the minimum public health standards. Hopefully, this is going to be a minor surge, if ever there will be a surge. Hopefully, it's going to be very minor and short-lived, and that it's not enough to overwhelm the health system's capacity.
NTF Deputy Chief Implementer Secretary Vince Dizon also said 425 cases were recorded yesterday, which is considered as the highest since April, but this is just a small number compared to other countries.
United States, 167,000 in one day. United Kingdom, 25,000 in one day. Taiwan, napakaliit na bansa. Ang Taiwan, mas malaki pa QC doon. No, sa Taiwan. 69,000 cases in one day. Singapore, mas malaki pa ang, I think, ang buong NCR, 3,900 cases. Korea, South Korea, 9,300 cases. Japan, 16,500 cases. There's an uptick in COVID cases all over the world, not just the Philippines.
The public is reminded to take their COVID-19 jab and booster shots and observe wearing a face mask.
Responsibilidad natin ito bilang mga mamamayan, siguraduhin na hindi tayo ang magiging sanhi ng pagsipa ng mga kaso. Halintulad sa mga bansa na binanggit na ni Sec. Vince, na lipa na ang mga kaso, nagtaasa na naman. We don't want to squander our gains. Okay? So I call upon everyone, nakikiusap po ako, magkaisa tayo.
The DOH is hoping that the COVID-19 response they have implemented during the Duterte administration will strengthen and continue under the Marcos administration. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
More public transport groups want a fare increase. The Philippine National Taxi Operators Association says it will be filing a petition, even if only for a provisional increase to cope with the rising fuel prices. Asher Kadapan Jr. will tell us why.
Several taxi drivers and operators complain of inadequate daily earnings due to continuous fuel price hike. Some drivers say they only earn about 300 pesos per day in their operation.
Minsan, ayan, lost boundary. Nagagalit sa aming mayari kasi talagang hindi kami makaboundary dahil nga sa hirap ng biyahe. Sana naman kami mga taxi driver, matulungan naman ng gobyerno na itaas man lang sila sana yung pamasahe.
Dati sir, makauwi ka pa ng 700, ngayon di na. So, kaya, yun, tagirap talaga sir. So, sana matulungan po kami ng gobyerno na mataasan yung lockdown namin dahil siyempre po para kahit paano makabawi naman po kami sa gasolina.
The Philippine National Taxi Operators Association explains some of the taxi drivers under their group were forced to cease their operation.
So, it's not a surprise na it's no longer a surprise why talagang naghihingalo yung transport industry kung bakit yung mga drivers namin hindi na naglalabas dahil wala na silang kinikita.
With this, Congressman and Pintoa President Jesus Manuel Bongsuntay says they seek to file a 20 peso provisional flag down rate increase petition in taxi operations. This way, they may revert to the old 40 peso flag down rate should fuel prices get back to normal.
Kaya nga ang aking suggestion is to ask for a provisional fare increase. Meter plus 20 pesos. Yun lang, ganun kasimple. Meter plus 20 pesos. Well, now na nagkasundo na, hopefully by next week may file na yan.
The Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board, however, earlier says they will issue a decision for all the petitions filed before June 30. Asher Kadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
One person was killed while two were wounded in a shooting at St. Stephen's Episcopal Church in Vestavia Hills, Birmingham, Alabama, USA. The suspect was already in police custody, and according to Police Captain Shane Ware, they did not see any additional threat. Ware did not identify the shooter or mentioned if investigators had already determined a motive. Alabama Governor Kay Ivey said the loss of a life was shocking and tragic, and they would closely monitor the situation. 4 European leaders have expressed their support for Ukraine to eventually join the European Union. Ryuji Sasaki tells us why live. Yes, Ryuji, good evening.
Good evening, Kath. Ukraine belongs to the European family. This is what German Chancellor Olaf Scholz declared in a meeting in Kyiv Thursday with Ukraine President Vladimir Zelensky, along with 3 other European leaders from France, Italy, and Romania. French President Emmanuel Macron said Italy, Romania, France, and Germany are doing everything they can so that Ukraine alone can decide its fate. Macron also promised to give Ukraine 6 more truck-mounted artillery guns. Zelensky has voiced gratitude for the West's help.
Але на нашій зустрічі сьогодні був зроблений великий крок вперед. Для мене було важливим почути від лідерів іншу фундаментальну річ. Вони погоджуються, що закінчення війни і мир для України мають бути саме такими, як їх бачить.
Meanwhile, other European leaders are preparing to decide next week on Ukraine's request to fast-track their candidacy status in the European Union. The recent pledges made by Italy, France, Germany, and Romania to backing up Ukraine's candidacy pushed the whole 27-nation union to expedite Ukraine's membership in the bloc. Kath?
Thank you, Ryuji Sasaki, for that live report. Scientists expect heating rises in the Arctic, but new research shows situations could be even more extreme in places. Jane Robles will give us the details live. Jane?
Kath, new research reveals that the rates of global heating in the Arctic is up to 7 times faster than the average. The North Barents Sea, where it is occurring, is believed to trigger an increases of extreme weather condition in North America, Europe, and Asia. Scientists believe that this is the highest recorded global heating rates they have observed, according to Ketil Isaacson, lead senior researcher at the Norwegian Meteorological Institute. Data shows annual average temperatures rise in the area throughout the year is up to 2.7 C a decade, with 4 C rise in the months of autumn, which will make the North Barents Sea and its island the fastest warming place on Earth. The North Barents Sea regional warming rate surpasses the Arctic and the global warming averages of 2.5 times and 5 to 7 times respectively. This leads to sea ice melting rapidly in an extraordinary rate. Experts warn that if this persists, would cause detrimental impact on the ecosystem and climate breakdown. Kath?
Thank you, Jane Robles, for that live report. An airline company based in Spain is paving the way for environment-friendly short-haul flights by ordering a fleet of airships as a part of its quest for less environmentally damaging aviation. Joselito Liquido will tell us the details live. Yes, Joselito?
Good evening, Kath. Air Nostrum, a Spanish airline that operates flights under Iberia Regional umbrella, ordered 10 Airlander 10 aircraft and are expected to be delivered by 2026. The Airlander 10 is a hybrid aircraft made by British manufacturer Hybrid Air Vehicles and will drastically reduce emissions by 90%, according to the company's president, Carlos Bertomeu. Comprised of a helium airship with auxiliary wings and tail surfaces, it flies using both aerostatic and aerodynamic lift and is powered by 4 diesel engine-driven ducted propellers. HAV CEO Tom Grundy also said that the hybrid air vehicle's goal is to benchmark other European countries in paving the way for decarbonization and short-haul flights. The company added that short-range routes ranging from 168 to 263 miles, for example, are possible with this aircraft. Point-to-point journeys will also be possible since it doesn't need airport runways to land. Kath?
Thank you, Joselito Liquido, reporting live.
The Cybercrime Investigation and Coordinating Center plans to synchronize its works with the law enforcement agencies. JP Duñez will tell us why live. Yes, JP.
Yes, Harleen, last year, the Cybercrime Investigation and Coordinating Center released data on approximately 3 million reported cybercrimes involving online sexual abuse and child exploitation. The CICC is alarmed that cybercrime activities on the web have become prevalent.
Yun na rin yung intent ng law for a body that will harmonize and coordinate and then mai-delegate. Parang triage na rin yung yung mangyayari sa CICC. Pag dumating, sino bang in charge sa defense, public security, international, or organized crime, yung level ng cybercrime. Yeah, we have a framework na magtutulungan kaming lahat.
By this move, the CICC will coordinate cybercrime investigations among other cybercrime divisions, which include the Philippine National Police, Armed Forces of the Philippines, and the National Bureau of Investigation, among others. Earlier today, the CICC inaugurated its first ever digital forensics platform and laboratory, which aims to intensify the government's fight against the rising cybercrimes. And monitoring cybercrimes related to online sexual abuse and child exploitation is one of their top priorities. This will be managed by trained and certified professionals from fields as diverse as information and communications technology, psychology, digital forensics, data analytics, research, and communications.
Imagine, mas maraming offenses o cybercrimes na nangyari ngayon, even in the Philippines, mas marami pa kaysa physical crimes, especially noong pandemic.
Arlene, the CICC call on the public to report to authorities any illegal activities caught on cyberspace. That is our latest live. Back to you, Harleen.
Thank you, JP Nunez, reporting live from Quezon City. The incoming chief of the Department of Information and Communications Technology plans to ease the burden of Filipino overseas Filipino workers through the e-government plan. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
The incoming Secretary of the Department of Information and Communications Technology, Attorney Ivan John Uy, admits there is poor interconnectivity among government agencies in the Philippines. In an interview with Get It Straight with Daniel Razon, Uy revealed that he is working with incoming Migrant Workers Secretary Susan Toots Ople to make the newly established Department of Migrant Workers to be the first digitally empowered government agency. This is to start the e-government and ease the burden of overseas Filipino workers.
Nag-usap kami, sabi ko, yung department mo ay magandang issue-showcase natin. Dahil bago, pakita po natin paano ang mga OFWs makikipag-transact sa isang bagong ahensya na digitally empowered.
One of the marching orders of President-elect Marcos Jr. to Attorney Uy is to digitalize government transactions to make it easier for the public. Thus, he began talking with his incoming fellow cabinet members to have just one system and make government service accessible to all.
Nakakausap ko po yung mga bagong pinili ni Pangulong BBM, no? Sa economic team niya, sa labor team, and lahat po sila malawak po ang paningin at open po sila sa interconnectivity.
He stressed that through automation, the revenue generation will be improved and the income of the government will not be lost due to corruption. Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Arkasang Bahay, as the world faces these trying times amid the pandemic caused by coronavirus, we are inviting everyone to join the global prayer for humanity from Monday to Friday, 9:30 p.m. Philippine time through the social media accounts of Members Church of God International.
Before we close, we will leave you with a word, giving glory to God. From the book of 1 John, chapter 4, verse 20, it says, "If a man say, I love God, and hateth his brother, he is a liar. For he that loveth not his brother, whom he hath seen, how can he love God, whom he hath not seen?"
And those are the reasons behind the news June 17, 2022. Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I'm Kat Tumaraos, reporting live from Bangkok, Thailand.
And please watch our special live coverage of the inauguration of Vice President-elect Sara this Sunday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon here at UNTV. And because we need to know, we will always ask why. This has been Herlene Delgado, live from Davao City. We serve the people, we give glory to God.